Welcome to Standard Deviation.
Hello, Ciara.
Hey, Kevin.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
You have an awfully big smile on your face. What's that all about?
I don't know.
Are you just in a good mood?
I guess.
Weird.
It's been a while.
Not going to do it.
It's been a while.
No. Damn it. Yeah, it has. It's been a few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, to our defense, there's not much going on in the world. And, it's not like we get a chance to hang out with each other and sit down and do this.
Right. Yeah.
For those who don't know, Kevin and I live together, and we haven't left the house since March. So there's really no excuse to not regularly do our podcast.
Hey, listen. There's a lot to do here in the house sometimes. I'm busy.
Yeah, we don't do that either.
Yeah, no. I've been writing a TV show since yesterday night.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about writing a TV show.
Yeah, I was really drunk, and I was watching a TV show, and I was like, I can do this.
Is it about
Shh, you can't.
Oh, I mean, is it not?
Remind me to edit that out. Anyway, so it's August 29th. Is that the date? Or 30th? What is today? It's August 30th, 2020.
Yeah, it's almost the end of August.
Yeah, which is weird.
It's March 254th.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Because, I mean, there's always that thing where time is weird and blah, blah, blah. But pandemic time is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
It kind of, it does like a warpy thing, where like sometimes some stuff will seem like it's a long span of time, and then other stuff seems really condensed.
Yeah, it seems like it's been going on forever, and at the same time, holy shit, it's almost September.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's real weird, man. It's real weird. I don't like it. I don't really know where anything stands right now. I don't think anybody does. Everybody just seems to be kind of just whatevering. Around here in Oregon, people I think are taking it fairly seriously, I guess, in the sense that they're wearing face masks for the most part.
Pandemic.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people aren't, and like I've been watching, I see people, some friends of mine doing jujitsu on Instagram, and I'm kind of jealous of them, but I also think that maybe that's not a great idea, To
do jujitsu or be jealous?
No, the jujitsu part, because they're in really close contact,
right?
And no masks, of course, not like it would matter.
Right.
In that kind of scenario.
Yeah, when we're that close to each other.
So I don't know. Like, I don't really know what the guidelines are. Last time I checked, the CDC was still saying just, stay 6 feet apart and wear a mask. Stay outdoors if you're around people.
Yeah, I think people are getting sick of staying inside, and
yeah,
they're seeing other people not take it seriously, and because we don't really have good leadership and instructions on what we should be doing, people are just making up their own rules and being like, well, if they get to do that, this isn't so bad. And
right. I remember just like a week or two ago, I saw people on Instagram like posting reminders that, hey, like the pandemic isn't actually over. Because like there are people who seem to think, oh, it's done. That was a couple months ago we solved that one. Like I've seen people on Twitter refer to something they did post quarantine. And it's like, We're still in the first wave of this pandemic. Like, what is post-quarantine? What do you mean?
Well, to be fair, wasn't the purpose of the lockdown was to
flatten the curve?
Yeah, and to help our hospitals catch up and, not overwhelm them. And that was only supposed to, at first they were saying 2 weeks, which I figured wasn't true, because I think the first thing I heard about the pandemic was that guy on Joe Rogan, I can't think of his name, he's like a virologist, and he made it pretty clear, like, this isn't going to be a quick, thing. This is going to be, like, he described it, he's like, it's not going to be a weekend lockdown, it's going to be a hard winter, is kind of how he described it. So I imagined, like, a couple months, and it's been even longer than that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's people saying, there won't be a vaccine for a year.
Even if there is a vaccine,
best.
like, that's not going to solve everything either, because there's a matter of distribution, there's a matter of people refusing to take it, there's a matter of, the virus mutating and all that. Yeah.
And some people are also just saying it's going to be like a flu-like thing that we're just stuck with, and we'll just see it surging annually or whatever. And fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fine, but fine. Nothing's fine. This is the world,
This is fine.
It's a bunch of shit circumstances, and things are dangerous. Like, on the one hand, I do just want to say, all right, if it's not fucking Ebola, then, like, maybe we should go ahead and get out there and resume conducting the affairs of a country, you know, or a world.
Yeah.
And then another part of me is like, well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I haven't checked to see recently the virality, the actual spreadability. I can't remember the word for it, or the lethality of it. But there are things like I think Ebola is the one I'm thinking of. There was some epidemic a few years back that would kill you in 24 hours. You would die of dysentery.
Well, it's kind of like the Contagion movie, right?
Yeah. But this was a digestive thing instead of like I think that was actually a COVID virus or a coronavirus, another coronavirus. In fact, it was really oddly similar. It was even the jumping from like pigs to bats or something, or bats to pigs to humans at a wet market in China.
Right.
Like that whole plot of that movie was basically what's been happening.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
But anyway, there's stuff where like if you get it, you're dead in a day before you even have a chance to realize you have it, and this doesn't appear to be one of those, which is good. Certainly, it's dangerous. I don't know how dangerous. There's a lot of open questions right now. Mm-hmm. The end. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Do you feel inspired?
I don't think we're saying anything that people don't already know.
Yeah, but this will be interesting to hear from the future, maybe.
Yeah.
Or if aliens are listening from the future or the past, because aliens might have the
or ghosts
technology for time travel. Ghosts,
if ghosts are listening,
time traveling ghosts. Yeah, I mean it's the best option, because if they have unfinished business, they don't have a lot of time to kill, so to speak. So might as well time travel.
Might as well time travel.
I'm just spiraling here.
Okay.
Take it.
All right. I will tell kind of a funny, crazy story. Have you heard about sciencing bi?
Sciencing bi?
Sciencing bi.
No.
Okay. So sciencing bi was a anthropology professor at Arizona University. And she had a Twitter account called Sciencing Bi, meaning she likes science and she's bisexual.
Whoa, I didn't think they existed.
Yeah. Well, neither did the department she worked at, because apparently she suffered a lot of discrimination for being a bisexual in the anthropology department. And she was a indigenous woman, and she got COVID and died because she was forced to work and teach. So this woman, her account on Twitter was anonymous. Everyone just knew her as Sciencing Bi. And she was best friends with this woman, last name McLaughlin, who I think was a professor somewhere else. I'm not really sure. But the two of them came up with this organization, Me Too STEM, right? So it was all about sexual harassment in sciences and you know, promoting diversity and stuff like that. And the two of them, I guess, were very close. So much so, I don't think they were lovers, but they like shared a bed together. And if you saw them interact on Twitter, like Sciencing Bi would just like always like come to McLaughlin's defense. Like anything that happened, she would just get passionately like angry and be like, do you want me to defend you? I'll do anything, and that sort of thing. And then, McLaughlin announces that Sciencing Bi died. And the people that followed her on Twitter were like, oh my God, that's terrible. And they had a Zoom funeral, which 4 people on Twitter attended. Wasn't that many people. It's kind of sad, right? And coincidentally, even though these 4 people had never actually met Sciencing Bi, apparently Sciencing Bi had left things for them. I can't remember exactly what, but like had some words for them. And this terrible thing happened. But afterwards, people kind of got a little like suspicious, like, who is this person? What's going on? And someone actually looked into whether or not any professors in the anthropology department at Arizona University had died. And they come to find out that Sciencing Bi isn't real.
Wow.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Is it this McLaughlin person?
Yeah. So this McLaughlin person had just made this person up, and which would be kind of, fucked up and weird, especially that she killed her and had a whole like Zoom funeral and toyed with people's emotions. But she also went so far as to collect donations on her behalf. So when Sciencing Bi was alive, she was fighting the university for, I don't know, discrimination. Oh, yeah. Apparently the university had demanded that she take a DNA test to prove she was indigenous. And so she was taking donations to fight them. And this was all under McLaughlin's Venmo because Science By was asked her to be the mediary so she can remain anonymous.
This is a pretty thin conspiracy.
I know, right? Yeah, so it all came out afterwards, and people were pretty pissed, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
So what was? She was just bored. She wanted support. She wanted controversy.
Yeah, I think. I mean, maybe money. Probably. I mean, you get a lot of sympathy and attention for being a victim.
Yeah.
And she had someone that could defend her whenever she was getting in internet fights and that sort of thing. Anyways, I've been thinking a lot about hoaxes like this because I feel like they come up way more often than people realize.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of things come up and my bullshit detector will go off, but I don't really want to say anything because to push back on certain things like a indigenous sexual minority woman who died of COVID, to be like, is she real?
Yeah.
But these things really do come up a lot. I was thinking about my own personal biases, kind of my automatic reaction to things. And I've realized that in 2020, or in the last 5 years or anything, if I hear of any sort of hate crime involving a noose, I automatically think it's bullshit. Just automatically. And I don't want to because I don't want there to actually be a hate crime involving a noose and me being like, yeah, right. But I have good reason to think it's bullshit because there was the case of that actor. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he claimed that he was walking down the street and two guys in MAGA hats came up to him, started throwing racial slurs at him, threw a noose around his neck. I think maybe poured gasoline on him or something. I might not be right about that. And it was kind of this caricature of a hate crime, you know? And then it turns out he made it up.
Right.
And then there was the NASA car fiasco of the one black driver finds a noose in his garage. Turns out to be a garage door pull. There was another case where people were saying there were nooses hanging off trees. And when they looked closer into it, it was a guy, happened to be a black guy, tying ropes around trees so people could exercise and climb.
Wow. Wow.
There was the case of, I think his name was Robert Fuller, who hung himself on a tree. And everyone was like, there's no way this was a suicide. They looked into it. It was a suicide.
Yeah.
And so I understand that the noose is this has a lot of terrible history and connotation towards it. But it seems like whenever there's a noose involved in the news or a story, it's
fake.
It's fake.
I wonder. I mean, I've never looked into this, and I have to say, all the news stories I've heard about recently have been fake. But I do wonder if there are other current news incidences that are real.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear about that. I wonder because it seems like these cases that came up were people were just outraged about it. It was a big deal. Everyone's talking about it. Oh my God, our racism is alive and well. And yes, racism exists. I'm not pushing back on that at all. But yeah, when it specifically comes to nooses or anything that's just kind of this overblown, I don't know. It's like if I heard a bunch of guys were walking around with Klan hoods in the middle of Chicago or something, I'd be like, really? I'd be a bit skeptical because it just seems so over the top,
yeah, that one I would think it's most likely trolls, because trolls are their depravity knows no depths.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of fake hate crimes, I guess.
And also, here's something I wanted to talk about the last episode, but never came up. Do you know the story, or do you remember the story of Matthew Shepard? Yes. Okay, so this was the kid in the 90s, got beat up to death for being gay, was the story. And the silver lining of that is that story ignited a bunch of anti-gay, or I mean, sorry, anti-gay legislation. No, it was LGBTQ rights legislations, and did a lot of like good things. I think made beating up gay people a hate crime, like that sort of thing. Some good came from the aftermath of it, even though it was a horrible thing that happened. He was not killed for being gay.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was killed over drugs, actually.
Really?
And one of the men that killed him was actually his lover. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a case where I guess it was good that lie came out, like that fake story came out, because if it was just a kid that got beat up for drugs, then, you know, it probably wouldn't have had that sort of effect.
Well, I mean,
but I think it's pretty rare that is, you know,
yeah, and
good things come from lies like that.
And hate crime legislation itself is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, that it is controversial.
Ooh, go on.
Well, I mean, it's a thought crime. So murdering somebody is already illegal. So murdering them for being gay is extra illegal.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
That is kind of weird.
It adds a weird layer of, I don't know, abstraction. And on the one hand, maybe it's good in the sense that if it helps as a deterrent, I guess. But does it really?
Yeah.
If someone's like, oh, I was going to kill this guy, but because I was going to kill him because he's gay, I won't, because then I would go to jail for an extra couple of years.
Right.
So.
And, I mean, okay, there's other reasons people kill people, like, you know, self-defense, for instance, or I don't know what else, but I think most homicide comes from the fact that you hate the person.
Right. Yeah, there's not a lot of homicide for love.
Right. So, yeah, why is it so different to kill someone because you just hate them personally, or because you hate an immutable characteristic about them?
And I do, to play devil's advocate on the other side, I see the point that protected classes need special protections at certain points in history to get over certain hurdles.
Yeah.
So if you do target someone because of their membership in a group, a protected class, then I can see the argument for adding severity to the punishment. But again, only if it's viable, only if it actually helps.
Yeah.
Because by and large, I think laws, regulations, they should exist, but they should be carefully justified. I think every law that goes on the books should make sense and do something.
Yeah, and I feel like we're in such a tense place right now in history. Like, a lot of crazy shit is going on.
What? No, it's totally relaxed. It's all chill.
But I don't think it is useful to assume like every terrible thing that happens between, like, for instance, a white person and a black person is necessarily like racially charged. There was a guy that got shot and killed here in Portland a few months ago, and it was a white guy that shot a black guy, and people just immediately ran with this. It was a hate crime narrative, and you just dug into it a little bit, and there's just no reason to think that's the case. Maybe it was, but there's no reason to think it, except the guy was white and the other one was black. It was a case of when you saw they're outside of a strip club. It was a group of people. They seemed to all be friends, like when you looked at the footage. And then at one point, the black guy goes into his car, and one of the white guys he was with just goes to his car and shoots him. So that's all you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think it's very helpful to just add some narrative to it that doesn't seem to apply. I mean, it's terrible enough that it happened, and you want to find out why it happened, and it's not helpful to just make stuff up.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, that's not how I
Don't
would
argue
do
with
it.
me, Kevin. I feel very strongly about this.
Yeah, if I were running the show, I wouldn't make up narratives.
Yeah.
I just saw somebody walk by the window with their mask on, and it wasn't covering their nose. I see that a lot.
That's a thing.
Yeah. What's going on there?
Do you see that a lot here? I hear about that a lot. I hear people complain about that, but I personally don't see it. I also don't leave the house that much. So.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times in person and a couple times on the interwebs. And on the interwebs, I never know if it's a joke or something, like a selfie with somebody's nose hanging out of their mask. Like, it's not worth thinking about, but seeing it in person is jarring.
I'm constantly seeing, because when I'm looking at people in video, in this day and age, it's usually some news segment, like from a protest or whatever. So it's usually like someone being interviewed or someone like talking to someone else. I'm constantly seeing people pull down their mask to talk.
Yeah. How fucking weird.
Or like the other day I saw like some footage from the Portland protests, and there was, they were screaming Black Lives Matter, and this girl pulls down her mask so she can shout Black Lives Matter.
It doesn't do anything. It just releases germs.
Yeah, that's when you that's when you really keep your mask on.
Right, is when you're shouting. Yeah. Yeah, somebody on Twitter said they were at the grocery store and a dude pulled off his mask to sneeze. Doesn't get any worse than that. So
funny.
We're fucked. I mean, hey, at least he was wearing a mask,
Yeah.
I guess. I guess.
I
Probably
guess.
not, though, if that's how he handles it. I mean, it might be just a big ball of virus air.
Yeah.
He's just blowing out. Maybe he's propelling virus, I don't know anything anymore.
I don't either.
I miss a few months ago when Boober was launched.
Oh yeah, those were good times.
Yeah,
early COVID days.
Yeah, Boober, for those of you who don't know, was a food delivery service by strippers. Local strippers would deliver food to your door. Topless. Yeah. It's a great name. But no, I remember seeing
they got sued by Uber though. They had to
change their name.
They had to change their name to Lucky Devil Eats because Lucky Devil's the name of the strip club.
Right. But I remember seeing a picture of it was like drive-through food stripping.
Yeah, they did a drive-through for a bit too.
Yeah. So it was this picture of like these crazy neon lights and shit, and strippers on stripper poles wearing gas masks, like giving people food in their cars as like a drive-through, and like that's the kind of thing I want to see.
Yeah,
like,
it looked very like just dystopian.
Yeah,
cyberpunk
some weird
future.
Blade Runner shit. Yeah, it was cool. It was
Super
very cool. But
cool.
now we got idiots with their nose hanging out, American flag mask, walking down the street.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. They stopped doing that because I think the strip clubs are open again.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they're just dancing with their masks on, and they're probably super slow.
Slow dancing because of the masks?
No, I mean business is slow.
Oh. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, things.
So there was a shooting yesterday in Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a well, first of all, we're at day 90 something of civil unrest in Portland. And yesterday a group of Trump, Proud Boy, Patriot Prayer, that one or all of those types of people wanted to do a demonstration, and I think they all met at the Clackamas Mall, and they got in their cars, and I think they were just going to drive through Portland, it seems. Like, I saw a lot of footage of those, just big trucks with American flags. And one of the guys on that side got shot and killed. That's about all I know. I don't know if it was self-defense. I don't know if it was homicide. But what I do know or think is, first of all, this happens a lot in Portland. It's kind of funny. I was last week, there was another Blue Lives Matter type group that demonstrated downtown. And of course, the leftists came too, and there was a lot of like street brawling and stuff like that. And on Twitter, I saw a lot of MAGA types claiming that these were not Trump supporters, these were not Blue Lives Matter, these were not people from the right. It was clearly just Antifa posing as them to ignite a civil war or whatever. And I just thought it was funny because it's like, no one needs to stage this. Like,
right.
People don't understand. Like, this happens all the time in Portland. It's like
this was already happening.
It's literally a summertime spectacle every year that Proud Boys come out in March and Antifa comes out and fights them or whatever. I'm not saying one instigates the other. I think they're both just out in the streets brawling each other.
Right.
I'm sure it's different case to case. But I feel like if some right-wing groups want to come through Portland and demonstrate, just fucking let them. Let's just let them do it. And I think they would do it, and it would be over, and no one would get hurt, and it would be fine. I think people have this misconception that, like, and I think it's a misconception, and maybe I'm wrong, but whenever I hear about the Proud Boys coming, there's all these warnings for, if you're a minority or if you're gay, like, watch out, the Proud Boys are in town, and they might just go looking for gay black person to just beat up for no reason.
Yeah, I don't think
they're doing. First of all, I don't like the Proud Boys. I don't think they're like great people
Right.
or anything. I don't think they're racist though. Like one of the most popular members that people hate locally is this guy who goes by Tiny, I think. He's brown. There's people of color in their group, so I don't think they're racist. They claim to be chauvinists, which I'm not a fan of.
Western chauvinists. So they talk about some things that you also hear white supremacists talk about, but that does not make them white supremacists. And sometimes I'm talking to people about this, and they think that's a fine point that doesn't matter. That that's not important.
Yeah.
And I think that is important. I think white supremacy is so bad that it matters who is a white supremacist.
I agree.
And just slamming that word left and right, anybody who mentions something you don't like, that's just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know much about the Proud Boys. They sound pretty silly, but whatever. They don't appear to be white supremacists, as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure some of them are racist, sure, but anyway, that's not the point of their existence. They're not a racial hate group.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
They're a sexist group. There's also the Proud Boys girls. You hear about them?
The Proud Girls?
No, they're the Proud Boys girls.
Oh, okay.
Because it's it's a male-dominated hierarchy. So
right.
Can't have Proud Girls. Mm-hmm. Just the girls of the Proud Boys.
Just their sex slaves.
Right. Anyway, yeah. So they go out and they do stuff and fights happen. I mean, I think what you're talking about is really the whole problem with Antifa. Mm-hmm. Which is it's proactive violence. Mm-hmm. It's not reactive. I mean, sometimes it's reactive, but their whole ethos, their philosophy is to hit first, to find people who you identify as fascists and then attack them.
Right.
And that's the problem.
And the fact that they're anti-fascist, like they have a supply and demand problem here because there's not that many real fascists out there.
Yeah, and the other thing is like fascism can be a little hazy to define, but basically it's the use of force to silence opposition. So
right.
Sounds like Antifa are fascists.
But their name is Antifa, so
okay, I see what you mean.
They're the anti-bad guys.
Right. It's like the reasonableists on Parks and Rec.
Exactly.
The cult that thinks that Zoldar or whoever is going to eat everybody's souls.
Yeah. Yeah, I am all for if you
Zorp.
right.
Sorry, it was Zorp.
Oh, Zorp, yeah.
Organize it too, engage with Zorp. It's the office supplies book. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I'm just... If any right-wing group wants to fucking march, just let them. I really feel like they would just march, wave their flags, and then go home.
Well,
like,
and the thing is, like, that shouldn't be a controversial point in America. That's what America's about. It's about people you don't like who you let go out and say what they want to say. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's easier to oppose them because they're a minority and because maybe they're regressive or whatever. Like that's the opposite of American values, you know? Like you're not supposed to dominate just because there's more leftists in Portland. Mm-hmm. Portland, you're not supposed to silence opposition, you know? It's a case of people very, very readily forgetting history, I think.
Right.
It's just like I bring up a lot revolutionaries becoming tyrants. Mm-hmm. It's the same sort of thing. I mean, if we just go back 100 years and the roles are reversed, you wouldn't want the people who are in the minority out there protesting they wouldn't endorse silencing the opposition just because it's disruptive. And the other thing is that if you have a strong case, if you actually believe in your own philosophy, then you shouldn't feel insecure if somebody is disagreeing with you. Right. Just let them disagree. Yeah. And if they're wrong, then it won't matter, and maybe they'll actually lose support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think we're on the same page on this one.
And we shouldn't have to argue this. Like, you should be allowed to say what you want to say in the streets of America.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's so basic. It's so basic. It's like it's one of the very first founding principles of the country. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say everything about the country is great or all of its principles are great, but that's one I can get behind.
Yeah.
You know, that one matters.
Yeah. Agreed. I've been kind of in this rabbit hole of the, I don't think you've paid much attention to this, the shooting that was in Wisconsin recently by the kid,
not much.
Kyle Ritterman. It's one of those names that I only read, but I don't really retain.
Yeah.
And that was a case where, let's see, a kid, 17-year-old kid, came out to Wisconsin because, what was it, Jacob Blake, black man, got shot 7 times in the back by police. Looked pretty bad. Looks like pretty excessive use of force from what I can tell. The town reacted. There were riots. And this militia group... Is it just a militia if it's just a group of people with guns trying to protect things?
I mean, I think usually militia is associated with a township or local government or something, but I don't really know.
Well, it was a group of people with guns, and from what they said, they were there to protect property and to defend people that are getting attacked. And this one kid, he had a gun and a medic bag, and there were 2 shootings, and one of them doesn't really have clear footage, so I don't really know what to think of that. But apparently there was a guy that was aggravated, tried to grab his gun, and the kid shot him. And when he shot him, he tried to run towards police. And on the way running there, people were like, that kid shot someone, get him. And then he got mobbed by mostly 3 people. One of them kicked him in the head. He fell down. One of them kicked him in the head. The other one whacked him with a skateboard. The other one pulled out a gun. And so the kid shot back and killed 2 people and injured the other one. And then he got up, walked straight to the cops with his hands in the air. And it's kind of weird because the cops didn't hold him, didn't bring him in. They just drove straight to the scene and drove right past him, which was pretty weird. And then there was also footage before the shooting of the cops being buddy-buddy with these guys, giving him water, being like, we appreciate you, blah, blah, blah.
He was a police cadet. That's worth mentioning.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I thought he was just like an aspiring cop or something.
No, he was a cadet. I think what I read is that he was a former cadet. Probably, I don't.
What's a cadet?
It's like a cop in training. It's like ROTC for cops or something.
Well, it's a little unclear. I can't quite get a hold of whether or not it was legal for him to have the gun. He did technically cross state lines. Some people say that they act like he drove across country to go to Wisconsin, but my understanding is he was in a town that was technically another state, but was only 20 minutes away. He was a minor. I think I heard that there might be a hunting license loophole to where technically he was allowed to have the gun, even though that loophole exists not so kids can bring guns to riots,
Right.
Anyways, so it's a little unclear whether or not he was legally allowed to even be there with a gun. I don't think it was a great idea. I don't want to see 17-year-olds with guns playing cop at riots. But just based off the footage I've seen, which again, the first shooting was unclear, so I don't know. The second shooting seems like clear case of self-defense. But the narrative is just out there because it's this little pudgy white kid with a gun that he's a white supremacist. He was there to just shoot up Black Lives Matter supporters.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so frustrating that it's and then of course on the right, it's, oh, he's a hero. I wish, Ann Coulter said, I wish this kid was our president.
What? Ann Coulter. She doesn't count. Anything she says is whatever, Ann Coulter.
Yeah, I think she's a provocateur. I don't think she's sincere.
Yeah.
But there are people, or Tucker Carlson also was just this kid just wanted to protect the town. And I think he did. I think you see an interview with him and he says, oh, I'm here to help, protect property, and I have my medic bag, and if anyone's in danger, I'm going to put myself in harm's way. So I think those were his intentions. He was just a stupid kid that got in over his head.
Right.
And he shouldn't have been there. But that doesn't mean
he
didn't justifiably act in self-defense in that moment.
Yeah, people are treating it like he's like a mass shooter. He just went there to murder people. And, maybe he did go there to murder people, but that there is not strong evidence for that at this point.
It's pure speculative.
Yeah, it sounds like the evidence, the most damning. I mean, I haven't looked into this at all, but from what you've said and from the few headlines I've seen, it sounds like what you're saying is pretty much the worst thing there's evidence for, which is that he did show up with a gun and shouldn't have.
Right.
I mean, it's bad enough for the cops out there trying to keep things civil. They don't need some kid with a machine gun with a rifle showing up and acting like riot control with live rounds.
Right.
That's a bad idea. And if there is not some kind of law against that basic premise, maybe we should pass a law. Yeah. Like, don't show up to riots with a gun.
Agreed. Yeah, but I heard he got arrested for first-degree murder, which that means it was premeditative, that he did, in fact, want to go out there to kill people. And again, he
hasn't been on trial yet. I mean, he hasn't been convicted.
Yeah. This is just what he was arrested for, apparently. So, yeah, it's yet to go to trial. But I was just kind of surprised by that. Just being arrested for that. I mean, maybe manslaughter, maybe, all sorts of things. But definitely first-degree murder seems like quite a stretch.
Yeah, I think I read something like first-degree intentional homicide or something. There's a lot of weird verbal nuances with charges and murder and homicide, and like what is homicide versus murder and all that. But yeah, it sounds like definitely first-degree something he was charged with.
Yeah.
And maybe just the evidence that he showed up with a gun and then killed a couple people. Like, I guess I could see the case there. Doesn't mean it's
worth looking into.
Accurate.
People died, so let's definitely figure out why and look at all possibilities. But I just hate how something like this happens, and it's just like people just run with these narratives. They don't admit when they don't know something. You know, it's like it's people are unsatisfied that some white kid with a gun shot two people in self-defense, and that's kind of all we know. People want to say like, well, actually he shot at peaceful protesters, which is like a narrative I kept saying, and every time I asked people like, is there footage of that, and it was just no, there wasn't any. And maybe it'll come up. This is just what I've seen as of today.
Yeah, it could be, and all I've heard is that like you said, the first person he shot was somebody who tried to take his gun. And like
that's kind of the questionable area, because there's kind of this weird fuzzy footage of him running away from people. Someone throws something at him. Some people said it was like a, what do they call it? The Molotov cocktails. Some people say it was a plastic bag. It's so far away. It's dark. You can't really tell. All you can kind of tell is like people are chasing him. They kind of go behind these cars. You hear a bang bang, and someone's on the floor.
Yeah.
So
here's another thing for context. In this same scene, I also saw several other people with guns, and they were I saw two that were protecting a gas station, and
I think he was a part of that group.
Was he?
Yeah.
What they said, and which I have no reason not to believe, is that they were there to protect the gas station.
Yeah, they didn't want it to explode.
Right, and they were telling people who were like confronting them. They were saying, like, if you want to go fuck up the government, go fuck up the government. Like, this is a local gas station. It's locally owned. It's hazardous because it's a gas station. We live here. Like, destroying this gas station isn't going to help your battle with the police. Go, fight the police. Fuck up the government. Do what you got to do.
Exactly.
And this is the militia.
They said, we're on your side.
Yeah.
Like, we're on your side, but stop fucking up small businesses, and please don't fuck up this gas station because it might explode and hurt a lot of people.
Right. And I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
Like if there was a riot here, I would be standing in the window with at least one gun. I don't really see a lot of better options necessarily. Maybe it depends on nuance, but protecting property with weapons, it's never the ideal scenario, but it's defensible. It's a lot more defensible than destroying somebody's property.
And it's extremely predictable. What do you think is going to happen when people start rioting and destroying stuff? Of course people are going to come out. And when, the riots first started, like, it really kind of changed my view on guns. And like, I remember seeing these, in Minnesota, these black business owners, standing outside their business, like, wearing guns, and I was like, fuck yeah. Like, they were, very calm, collected, and just like defending their property. Then I learned about rooftop Koreans. I never knew about rooftop Koreans from the riots, the
LA riots.
Yeah, the LA riots. I was like, fuck yeah, because they were protecting their stores because the police couldn't protect them.
Right.
So, and I stand behind that. Yeah, protect your property, protect, your rights. It is unfortunate that a kid got in the mix and, things got ugly, but you can't be surprised. It doesn't seem unbelievable to me that kid was trying to do the same thing as, anyone else would that, has a gun and wants to protect their property.
Yeah, it seems plausible. And one of my big questions is like, was, because the thing is, the people I've seen who appear to be responsible and nonviolent and armed are the ones standing still outside a specific business. They're not roaming around with a gun. And that's one of my big questions about this case. Was this kid like walking through the crowd with a gun? You know, like that's a little different than just standing post somewhere.
Well, the thing about him was like he had a medic bag as well. And so he had the mentality of like, not only am I protecting stuff, but if someone gets hurt, I'm going to run out there and try and help them with my medic bag. And then if that happens, of course, he's running around with a gun. It's not like he's just going to put it on the sidewalk and leave it there, you know?
What a shit situation.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too sympathetic to this kid, but I think it's possible that his heart was in the right place. He had the best of intentions, and he was just a stupid kid that got in over his head. Yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of people are losing... Another thing people are losing respect for, kind of like the ability to speak your voice in public. Another thing people are kind of forgetting is the importance of trials and not just assuming the worst of anyone based on limited evidence.
Right.
And so that's fair. I mean, if you are being easy on him, fine. The evidence will come out one way or the other. And it's not like there's a shortage of people saying that he's evil and a murderer. So, you know.
Yeah, I don't need to fill that role.
Yeah. Oh, man. Stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff's not so good.
Not so good.
Stuff's pretty rough.
Do you want to do Am I the Asshole?
Sure.
It's kind of nice to end those because they're a little more fun and light.
I want to do more listener question episodes. If any listeners out there are...
I can pull up listener questions too.
Yeah, if we have time, we can do both.
Okay.
Because I like answering listener questions. In fact, Sam Harris's AMA episodes was one of my original inspirations for this show. And I miss it. I miss just waxing nonsense about whatever question I'm totally unqualified to answer. It's fun. It's what hacks do for fun.
All right, you know what? I'll just pull up listener questions.
Okay.
You've convinced me.
Shit.
All right, what is it?
I'm not ready.
You're ready.
Oh.
You're ready for this. All right. We have so many. Okay, so this is then...
Y'all ready for this?
Good one, Kevin.
Thank you. For those who don't know, I'm also a very talented singer, obviously.
Okay, I'm going to look for the most recent one. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a question. Was listening to the episode about psychic rats while I was actually handling research rats. Kind of funny juxtaposition because I only handle rats like 1% of the time in the lab. I was like, are the rats communicating with me via Kevin and Ciara? Haha. I will tell you this, rats are some intelligent and intuitive animals. That said, I am a scientist and a biologist. Genetics is the major lens through which our labs builds our models. However, I believe there are more complex and dynamic biological, chemical, or physical forces at play than we currently understand. Sounds like he was kind of agreeing with some of your theories about psychic rats.
Yeah, for those who didn't hear that episode, we were talking about research by Rupert Sheldrake and some theories by Rupert Sheldrake about morphic resonance and morphic fields and yeah, I mean, essentially telepathy in animals and humans.
Yeah, that was like a couple episodes ago.
I think so. Yeah, probably 2 episodes ago. Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yes, Stephen, thanks.
All right, here's one. What is one book you think everyone should read?
Ooh. I used to have a list of books, and usually the first one is The Little Prince. That's a great book. And specifically, if you read it in English as opposed to the original French, I would recommend the Catherine Woods translation, which was out of print for a long time. But there's other translations that are just garbage. They're really not worth reading. So that's one good one. Another one that seems to come up a lot is the Trigger Point Therapy Workbook, which is a self-treatment massage book for healing all kinds of chronic pain and other weird medical shit through trigger point massage. So that's another good one. What about you?
Well, let me think. I would probably need some time to kind of ponder this. I don't read a lot of books, to be honest. I start a lot of books and I don't finish them.
Same.
I think maybe right now I'm enjoying this book that just came out. It's called How to Have Impossible Conversations. And I think it's very pertinent right now because there's a lot going on politically and the country's very divided and blah, blah, blah. And this is just a really good book on just how to talk to people. And yeah, I think that's something that's really lost right now.
Yeah.
People, you know, are just very emotional and tribal and talk past each other and don't listen and don't know when to, like, just stop talking, like, let a conversation go. Like, that's another one that kind of comes up is, like, you know, especially online, which actually I think one of the tips is, like, don't have conversations online, which is probably a good
Just
one.
never go on the internet.
Yeah. But you know how sometimes you get into it with someone and then all of a sudden you're just so deep in the woods and you know, like, the train is off the tracks. Like,
Yeah.
there's no salvaging this conversation, but you're already in it and people are passionate and blah, blah, blah. So there's some good tips on just knowing when a conversation is futile and just to let it go, or, you know, or at least to, I think one good just general piece of advice is, like, if you disagree with someone, to avoid, especially if it's a friend or a family member, to avoid ruining that relationship, try to focus on what you agree with and finding the points that you actually agree on things, which I think is pretty good advice. But it's a good book.
Yeah, I'd get behind that. I read a book a month or two ago that was really interesting. It was called The Anesthetic Revelation and the Gist of Philosophy, which is a hell of a title, by Benjamin Blood, which is a hell of a name. And this book is, I think, like 100 years old, give or take. Maybe I think more than that, maybe 120 or something. But this was around the time that nitrous oxide was synthesized, I guess, invented, and started becoming popular among physicians and such for its anesthetic qualities, but also just among society types. They would have nitrous parties and get all fucked up on laughing gas. And this guy wrote this book that basically, I mean, he it's largely incoherent. It's actually really hard to read. And I read a Kindle edition. A Kindle edition that I'm almost sneezing. It's going to be terrible. Can I hold it?
You can do this.
All right. I read a Kindle edition that had encoding errors. So, like, every couple of words, there'd be like a fucking wingding symbol or something in there. And so, like, I had to kind of gradually learn how to translate it in my head, which made it, like, extra confusing. But anyway, he makes a good case in this book, or I don't know that he makes a good case. His case is good. It doesn't make it that well. That the efforts of philosophy and science are doomed from the outset, that they will not reach their core purpose. Essentially, his point is that identification of things and distinguishing one thing from another, which is kind of what science is all about, really, when it comes down to it, is not strictly possible in any ultimate sense. And I think later this was something that came about in mathematics. I think Kurt Gödel's incompleteness theorem, I think it's called, kind of came to a similar conclusion. Anyway, it's an interesting and important work, I think, or at least its ideas are interesting. And if somebody else has done a better job of explaining them, then that's great. But I think that a lot of modern science and philosophy is confused about what is possible and what isn't. And I think this book goes a long way towards clearing that up. But as far as whether everybody should own it, I don't know. Almost incomprehensible. So I don't know that would do a lot of good. But it'd be nice if more people read it. Yeah. William James published a retort to it. His essay about nitrous oxide was kind of in response to this book. What do we got?
Hi, Ciara. I was looking up YouTube videos to try and help me cure my financial domination, blackmail, phone sex addiction, and I saw your interview. It had the opposite effect. You are very captivating. I tried to contact you on Twitter, but it looks like it's down. Can I pay you to have phone sex with me? Please email me instructions.
Wow.
No. All right, next question. Okay. Do you think 18 years old is the appropriate age threshold for pornography models and actors? Sure.
I will start. I'm going to have a long answer to this, or maybe not long, but a little complex. But I'll just sum it up by saying I don't know. But there's, I think, two key things to consider. One is that the human brain, from what I understand, the frontal lobe doesn't stop developing until around 25 years old.
Right.
That's when behavioral regulation really sets in, and people are more able to control themselves, make cogent decisions, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to really pin it on something like that, then on like self-regulation and intellectual ability, then 25 would be a good age. On the other hand, if you want to pin it closer to nature's clear demarcation of adulthood, which would be puberty, then it could be anywhere from 14 to 18 or older, depending on the individual. or younger, I guess, theoretically. So really, yeah, I mean, whatever framework you assess the correct age in, you'd have to define what are the criteria. You know, just picking an age just because doesn't really seem very coherent.
Yeah, but I mean, what alternative do we have? Because I mean, obviously there's going to be people who are more mature at 16 than other people are at 18, and there's going to be people that are reckless and stupid at 25, you know. So obviously it depends on the person, but we can't evaluate people individually to get into porn. I'm not sure what that would look like.
Right. So then maybe, like I'm saying, maybe you build in some kind of externalized parameter, like the finalization of frontal lobe development, you know, and then 25.
Okay. Sure. That's fine.
I don't know. Thankfully, it's not up to me.
Yeah.
Be like, listen, well, here's some things to consider, everybody. Let's spend 6 months talking about it.
Well, I will say one thing. If it's okay to send an 18-year-old out to war, then it should be okay for an 18-year-old to do porn.
Agreed. So then is it okay to send an 18-year-old to war?
No. I don't think it's okay to war.
Yeah.
All right, let's do an Am I the Asshole?
Okay.
All right. Am I the asshole for commissioning a dog's birthday cake for my coworker who thought it was a human child? I have a pug who's turning 12 next week. About a month ago, I asked one of my coworkers who has a side business making fancy artistic cakes if she could make one for, quote, my baby, by which I meant my dog, who I affectionately refer to as my baby. I thought she knew this. I don't have real children. It doesn't help that my dog has a very human name. So when I commissioned the cake, I guess she fully thought that this was a human child. Anyways, this past weekend, we were texting about the cake flavors. I asked her if we could make it a low-fat, low-sugar, and replace frosting with cream cheese and use chicken stock instead of vanilla in the sponge. She asked if my kid was diabetic or something, and I said, oh no, I just don't think dogs should eat full-fat sugar cake. She didn't reply for a while and then called me and was like, what dog? What's up, dog? I told her it's for my dog's birthday, and she said, forget it, I'm not baking a cake for a dog. She said she can't believe I wasted her time by making her design a cake for a dog. I told her I already prepaid, and it's now too late for me to commission a new cake, so I'd appreciate it if she just made it since it's her job. Long story short, we ended up arguing, and I threatened to post bad reviews on her cake business sites if she cancels on me last minute. She refunded me without telling me and has been ignoring me ever since. It's not like I'm asking her to come up with a brand new dog-specific recipe. Just cut down on sugar and dairy and replace a few basic ingredients so it's better for an elderly dog. She takes this as a huge insult despite the fact I'm paying her full price. Am I the asshole?
No.
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Sounds like she's being an asshole.
Yeah.
The cake maker.
Mm-hmm.
What's her problem?
I don't know. That's kind of a weird one, huh?
Yeah.
Like
I want to hear the other side of this.
Yeah, I feel like there must be more of the story because that's
Yeah.
a little too straightforward. That
Yeah.
person's being an asshole.
Yeah, because like what I mean, I can imagine if she's just like, I don't know how to make a cake with chicken stock,
Right.
so no, I can't do that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that would make sense.
Yeah, how do you make a cake with chicken
I
stock?
don't know. Can you just replace vanilla with chicken stock? I mean, maybe, but
Well, vanilla. I mean, you put like a teaspoon of vanilla in it.
yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that might be it. That might be like she might just be asking for too much, like some weird like dog specific cake.
Yeah, because that's not a cake.
No.
I mean, I guess maybe it is. It's like a chicken stock cake, but
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to my sister about this because she's a very good baker. She might know if that is kind of an unreasonable request or not.
I mean, like I don't think I've ever made a cake, and I guess if I was a professional cake maker, I probably would have some sense of how feasible it is to just replace something
Yeah.
with chicken stock. But it sounds like if anything, that would be the controversy. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably what's going on here because just she's just so insulted at the concept of making a cake for a dog.
Yeah, like who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it's money.
That would be weird.
All right, should we wrap it up? I
Yeah,
gotta
let's wrap
pee.
it up. Yeah, me too. All right, thanks everybody for listening, and send us your questions at standardpodcast.com.
Bye.